Welcome, everybody. This is Elisa from the Rebel Crone and the Rebel Crone. And today I'm so excited because my special dearest friend Maurice is back. We've taken, I think, pretty much this whole year off. It's been a big recalibration for me. Nothing on Maurice's side, it's more my side. A big recalibration, everything, but I'm so excited to be back with my dear friend, and we've got some great starting points that we know we want to talk about. And as always, though, we never know where the conversation is going to take us. So come join us for an incredible journey and a ride into whatever comes up for us, wisdom and lots of really beautiful golden nuggets. I know that's always happens. They always appear when I'm with my friend Maurice. Welcome, Maurice. I'm so glad to have you back.
It's good to be here. It really is.
Yay,
It's
yay.
been since, my gosh, March. Yeah, no, April, May, June, 2 months.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's just been way too long, but we need to start doing these on a regular basis. And I've got, my other podcast going, Wisdom of the Modern Crone. And hopefully I'm going to be starting to get on a lot of new, being interviewed on other people's channels. So I was on Sheila Corona's, Sassy Sheer Sheila. And then also Joel the Perceiver is going to be interviewing me tomorrow. So that's
I
kind
know
of
him too.
yeah, oh, fabulous, fabulous man. So I'm excited about having that opportunity. It's been this intention of mine is to get on other people's shows. It's really nice to be asked questions for a change than being the question asker.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it'll be interesting to see how he perceives it too. As because Joel's mostly a listener. I mean,
he
he
is,
has a lot to
yeah.
say, but he doesn't generate, at least in my experience with him, and I've had a little bit with him personally. I've been to, some of those events where he was at too. And we spent time together in conversation with other people as well. So I kind of witnessed him, watched him in action, and listened to what he had to offer and how he handled himself. He's consistent as what you see is what you get. He's got no agenda other than what he says,
Exactly. And when
and
he speaks.
that's an
Yeah.
important thing.
Yep, absolutely. Just very clear-hearted, clear head.
Hmm.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous man. I mean, I really appreciate him deeply. We formed a really tight connection in Houston. I was his private chauffeur because I had the rental car. But with that, we got to have, many meals together and just hang out
Well,
one-on-one and great conversations. And he is a world-class listener, which
hmm.
is such a rare trait nowadays. Mostly people are very intent on talking, or if they're listening and trying to figure out what they're going to say. And I know that I fall for that one as well. So something I have to consciously remind myself is about listening and being totally present with that person. Absolutely, fully. And then when it comes time for you to speak, then, then focus on that. Kind of like what we do in our conversations, which I think is
close,
why
close.
they flow so smoothly, is because we just, there's not an agenda with it. We just back and forth.
Oh, we respond in a moment, and that's pretty much what he does as well. He he's got a pretty good insight on. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think we are going down this road, but that's fine. I like Jason. I mean, not Jason. I mean Joel. Sorry, JJ. Anyway, Joel. He like I said, he has no agenda other than being himself as he sees honestly himself to be, and that's it. That's an understatement, but that is a true statement. He's in the moment as much as a human can possibly be. We're not some idealized form of other otherworldly being that is in the moment all of the time. The eternal now and all of that kind of thing. We're living in a linear experience down here. So we have to take that into consideration and accept that reality and not fight it. But there's a wide range of experiencing that. And the closer you can get to really spending your time as close to what's in front of you. Be where your feet are is another way of looking at it in a common way of saying it that gets the point across. Don't you know? Don't, the rest of that stuff is theoretical
You know,
or
that's
take
so
false memories and
powerful.
stuff. You know?
That's such a powerful point, Maurice, because this is one of the struggles I feel like right now with people is there's so much going on. There's a lot of uncertainty, whether if you're going to be looking at the physical level or if you're looking just feeling it emotionally, or you're tapping into the higher spiritual things that are going at a soul level on this planet. Things are really, really in flux. And you're right, we're on this horizontal plane of the time continuum. But
Yeah.
the closer we can get to the to reality, which is now, I think that all that stuff can come to rest because what can you do right now? Can you change any of that craziness that's going on? Can you alter, can I change politics? Do I want to? No. But if I could have a magic wand, yes, I would change
Yeah, but you
things.
don't have that magic wand. It's not yours to
It's
do.
not mine to do. Exactly. So what is mine to do? What is yours to do? And
Hmm.
that's, you can only find that right now, exactly in this moment. And
That is correct. Yeah, and and
oh,
and part of the understanding of what's actually happening, especially if you're interacting with people, you've got to hear that. At least for me, I'll speak for me, and I assume probably quite rightly for everybody else. If you want to understand what's really happening from the person or people that you're encountering, you have to find out where they are, not where you are. You already know where you are pretty well, and it's not for you to. You want to hear their where they're coming from, and in order to do that, you have to put aside your agendas and listen.
well, that's the problem, isn't it? And that's kind of indicative of somebody, and there's nothing, this isn't casting blame or anything, but when someone's
Hmm.
still working out who they are and doesn't have a strong sense of self, I think it's very hard to listen because it's all being interpreted back through. You're trying to figure you out in relationship to them, and you can't be there for them. Does that
Good
make
point.
sense? You
Yeah,
know,
that's a good point. Yep, I
yeah, and I
agree.
think that that's one of the things we're talking about. Joel the Perceiver, who's got
Yeah,
a channel on YouTube. He's done a lot of things, some interviews with Archaics. I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. Going to be interviewed on his channel tomorrow. But that's, I think, one of the keys that I perceive in him is that he's at peace with himself. He's at rest within himself right now, so he can lend two ears and
yes.
his heart and his mind to fully be present and listen. But if you're not, I mean, that for you, if you're having a hard time listening to others, you just be real with yourself. You don't have to share it with anybody else. Just be real with yourself and just know that there's some more work to do. It's like, all right, why can't I be present? Why am I not fully engaged? Why am I not fully listening? Why am I thinking what I'm going to say while the other person's talking so I can't really hear? That's it. Just be reflective of that and then see where that takes you. So I think it
Yep.
can take you down a road of being just be more self-aware, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
a way of
goal.
expressing it. Of course, there's probably whole college courses on what that even means, self-aware. And then you
Well,
get tied up into all these theories and thoughts and things, and you're out of the moment anyway. You're once again lost in the world of ideas and what ifs and what maybes and all of that, and you're not where your feet are.
which is exactly what we wanted. The one topic that we Well, we have two topics that we were going to talk about today, if we got to them. But this segues perfectly into it. I was just telling Maurice before I started recording that I'm just like one step away from getting my book formatted, my second novel, metaphysical adventure called Awake and Aware. And so I was writing just the note from the author, acknowledgments, and some of those little final touches. And one of the things I put on there, because I was talking about wisdom, is that a little equation is called knowledge plus action equals wisdom. In other words, knowledge, like what's in your head, mind matter, plus action, which is body, is experiencing, and that equals wisdom, which would be the integration of the two, and it gets you at a soul level. And that's what we're talking about really is, just we can get so caught up in ideas and uh, a perspective on things and just get caught in mind matter, but it really doesn't move the needle as far as your life goes, right? It's not what you know, it's who you are. And you can't be authentically you until you reach a place of wisdom, and you've got to apply knowledge. So I would say one of the things I've done throughout my life is when I learn something, like I've been, if I was mentoring with somebody or involved in a group and trying to gain more knowledge, is that when I heard something, be like, well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's true. So then I would apply it and I would try it out and I'd feel it out. I'd try it out. And then I would see like, oh, that's true now. And then then you can judge, you can not judge, but they can evaluate many things from that place. But
Mhm.
anyways, that was one of the things we want to talk about is just, the trappings of mind matter. And if like we're in a world,
Well,
right, Maurice, a world that's like it gets really trapped in mind matter.
absolutely. Well, there's all kinds of ways of interpreting this universe that we find ourselves within, as you're aware, quite well aware of, and not most, all of your listeners are aware of. I like to, this is not original to me. I've heard it from others before I ever thought of it. So, um, I refer to it internally anyway, and sometimes out loud, like I'm going to do now. It's the mental realm, if you will. Realms, at least in my mind, the way I look at things. Yeah, I understand that word. It's a contained area. It's large and all of that stuff, but it's a realm. There are other realms available to us as well, and so of course the broad with many many kinds of interpretations and descriptions, but there is such a thing as a spiritual realm, and they're not the same thing. But here we are, uh, a weird mixture of both as we traverse this linear path of human life. Integrating them so they work harmoniously together is not it isn't done with a snap of a finger. It appears it's a journey. I believe it's been referred to by many along the way. And
Well, I think sometimes there's epiphanies, right, Maurice? Sometimes there's things like boom, and sometimes there's changes in my life that happened in a flash, in the wink of an eye. And there's other ones I slogged through for stinking years.
isn't
That,
that the case?
oh
Yeah.
my God. And it's just like I can't control that. It's just sort of it's something beyond. It's something beyond that's happening. Why that lesson is extended out through painful experience, challenging
Yeah.
experience over and over. And then other things are they're just gone. It's kind of like, okay, graduated, got that one, next one,
Well, hey,
quickly.
sometimes that one I call insight. That's another
Mm.
word that I know people use and understand quite freely and well. And where does that come from? That certainly doesn't follow the procedure of A plus P plus C plus XYZ times, years, months, days, whatever. It comes like that. That's insight.
It's
And
so true.
where did that happen? How did that happen? Well, that doesn't fit because it doesn't come from the mental realm. It occurs within the mental realm. That's where they come together, and poof, that's the moment of
I mean,
change.
we have to have the mental realm, you have to
Of
have
course.
truth. And I feel like the mental realm, that's where we sort through what's real, what's not real. We process things. We're given a mind for a reason. There's a mental realm for a reason, but it's a
Yes, yeah.
tool. It's very
There you
important, but
go.
it's not the to be or end all, is
Correct.
what
I
you're
agree
saying
there
there.
100%. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. And it's something that can help unlock the door, but then it's like mind, and then you have to have the heart, you have to have the body, the experience, the emotion
Mm-hmm.
attached with it. And then you can start unlocking wisdom, which wisdom is the mirroring of both,
Correct.
truth and love. We could
Yeah.
say the highest essences of all, truth
Mm-hmm.
and love
Yeah. Yeah. And we
coming
know
to
they're there. We can
experience.
feel it. We even have
Yeah.
words to try and describe it. We use words like love, for instance. It's way, and deep down it's more than that, but that is the word we use to refer to it in this language. Amor is another way of saying the same thing. I know enough French to say that anyway.
You know,
But
that's like a good thing, more just to like, 'cause I was talking about, we were talking about somebody that's a good listener. A good listener, you feel seen, don't you? In a way, you feel loved, you feel accepted because they're actually listening to you
yeah,
without an agenda, whole pure hearted, and you just like, oh, okay, somebody's really listening to me. You know, that's like an act of love is listening, but you've got to love yourself and have love in your heart,
mhm.
and to be able to extend that. But that would be something people could try if you're having struggling being present with somebody. Just focus on loving them, on the love and gratitude for whatever it is about them. Maybe it's one little thing, maybe it's a whole bunch of things. Find that one thing and then just see if maybe that will help tune in your listening abilities because you really care.
Well, that's also granting from the listener's point of view. That's I see Gandalf on my shoulder over here. That, by the way, as an aside, cats are wonderful teachers for what it's worth. You want to know what it's like to be in the now, what we're talking about? Just pay attention to a cat and see how they travel through the day.
Unabashedly real, right? It's like pet me, no, don't pet me. I want to be around you. No, I don't want to be around you. Now I want to be around you. Now, I mean, they're just authentic.
That's it. They are authentic. They no agenda. They have agendas. They're hungry. They want to get scratched. They want to get loved. They want things. So they do have agendas, but they're not subtle about it. They're not trying to fool you or trick you into doing something. They just, they're bold right there. This is what I want. Boom, there it is.
Oh my God, so funny. This morning I was sitting down trying to do a little meditation, and Bugsy had a love attack, and he's a big head bumper.
Oh boy.
And then he just kind of grinds his little face against you. So here I am I woke up not feeling real great with a headache and just kind of irritated. So like, okay, I'm gonna get centered. And here Bugs is like, and it's like here I'm sitting trying to get, centered and relaxed. And he was irritating the crap out of me, which was like so perfect. He was just like, and I'm like, oh, I started to get even like more irritated. And then I had to just laugh. I'm like, oh my God, okay, Bugs, fine, whatever. Come sit in the lap. You want attention.
I'll
It
tell you
was
something.
so
I
cute.
noticed that Gandalf does that with me too. He gets up here on this little table I have next to me, and he looks at me, and we bump heads. We just do it every time. And I look at him. I'm doing something on the computer. reading something or whatever, and I look at him and I say, he's more important than what I think I'm doing right now. And I stop and I come into the moment and I share the moment with him from my point of view. That's how I'm, and it's perfect. It's beautiful. And it reminds me personally of this whole thing about being as close to your center actually is another way of describing it, but being in the moment for the sake of consistency here of the story we're talking about. It's a physical reminder to just whatever you think you're doing, there's also you can stop and you can stop and smell the roses is another way of putting it. A lot of people
Yeah.
they don't take time. They're so intent on accomplishing something, and I've been that way. How the hell am I talking about this? I've been that way. I'm talking out of life experience. Yes, I've heard other people's stories about it, but I've experienced it myself, so I know it's personally true, and that gives it credibility. And everybody listening to this, you investigate your own life stories as you can recall them. You know that you can say yes or no. I've never experienced anything like that. Those two people are full of crap. They're just making noises. But there's a lot of people that say, well, yeah, I've done that too. Yeah, well, damn it, that makes sense. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I've done that too. Experience
Yeah.
is the big teacher. It's one of the, well, let's put it this way. It's probably the closest teacher to you personally as you walk this earth. You've done it. You know it's true. And how
That's where we
do you
get
know it?
wisdom.
I know
That's
it
what we were
from life.
talking about.
I know it from experience. It isn't because I read somebody that wrote a book 200 years ago. Yes, you know it. You can know that. That's that knowledge thing that we were talking about in the mental realm. and it functions wonderfully in certain circumstances, but it's not the only source of understanding and knowing, because knowing is there.
No,
Go
the
ahead.
thing to understand that knowing is part of the equation. It's part of the mental realm equation is we have, something dawns on us, but then we have to live it and we have to act on it. Then it comes into our being. So the whole thing of knowledge plus action equals wisdom, there
Yeah.
it is. So you've got the different realms, they all connect up when you
Mhm.
act on the knowledge. Because if you know something, if you don't act on it, do you really know it? No, you don't really know it, right? If you can't act on it. But to really
Mhm.
know it, to really know it, to have wisdom about it is because you act on it, you do it, you be it, and you just be it. That's it. You be it.
That's exactly, well, that's very true. That is very true. As you were talking, I was thinking, how the hell am I going to say this? Because I had a thought and I saw a picture, mental picture without, color. I just saw something. Knowing with a small k is knowledge as we understand it. It's a collection of facts and information, and we have it in little, if you will, boxes in our brain somewhere or out wherever the hell it really is. Action is another thing, meaning experience. Life experience is another thing. You put the two together and you have something else. It's knowing with a K, a capital K as opposed to a small k. There's a difference. And that kind of knowing is akin to wisdom in action. And I've looked up the word wisdom, saying what is the exact the dictionary definition of wisdom? And I've read the words, and I can't write. I didn't do it for this, so I don't have it at my disposal. It doesn't really describe what wisdom is, because wisdom is something that's it's beyond normal human understanding to describe. I think
I
it's
think
it's
I think
it's
I
it's an
think it's a
action.
beingness.
It's
It's a
a being.
beingness.
Exactly right. It's a
Yeah.
beingness. And that's kind of like, it's akin to that knowing that I refer to with a capital K. it it manifests through us, but it doesn't originate within us. It comes from somewhere else, I think.
Whether it's somewhere else besides just the human you. So I
Yeah,
think it can
yeah,
come
that's what
from,
I'm
it depends how
talking
you
about.
define yourself. There's the higher you, the immortal you, the oversoul you, whatever you want to talk, which is a part of you, the
Yeah,
bigger you, but it's, so you're talking, Maurice, I was just picturing the word knowing, you saying capital K, but
yeah,
what's right inside of knowing is nowing. Take the K away,
yes,
we have
that's very true.
nowing.
In good insight, it's true too.
You got the nowing. This leads us perfectly into the something I would like to cover in this conversation. I gave Maurice some homework before. And before we do our talk, would you please listen to my latest video I did, not the interview podcast, Wisdom of the Modern Crone, because I did that with Danny, is the video I did called AI versus II, which I call innate or infinite intelligence. And this is exactly the point that I was making in it of the pitfall of the AI realm. We're going to talk about realms because it's a man-made mental realm that's infused with all the mental data. Does
It's
AI
true.
have feeling? No, it has no feeling. Does it care for you? No, it doesn't care for you. It does have wisdom? No, it just, there's a bunch of knowing, little k knowing in it. And then what the pitfalls are is what I point out. And I think in a very, I think I did it real clearly. I hope I did it real clearly. Is my caution to people is looking to that and starting to rely on that to do the stuff for you, like work things through and figure out all the mental stuff. When you rely on AI to do all that for you, this is a quick synopsis of the video, is that you circumvent your own connection through your own doing and action with the big plasma field, the big creative field, the big, infinite intelligence, which is way more than AI intelligence. Don't kid yourself, infinite intelligence where everything is. and plus love, truth, all of that. So part of the process is of us, I feel like, is our divine evolution is through our creativity. You know, whether it's punch in numbers, whether it's scientific equations, whether it's cooking, whether it's gardening, whether it's painting a painting, it doesn't matter. We're creating. And when we use our own creative forces, we're aligning with the big infinite intelligence, and that is helping us to grow and experience and create wisdom. You know, having AI do everything for you is not going to make you wiser. You're going to get
No,
more
it's
mental
not.
stuff, and it's going to be easier. You get to, oh, got that done, wrote that real lickety split, but you're circumventing your whole growth potential.
There's no quality in AI. That's another word that you know. What do you mean by quality? Well, that's the juice of life, if you will. What you're talking about. It's the lived experience of doing things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's shallow. It might, you know, it is a collection of facts and figures, and you know, the computer people talk about ones and zeros. Well, it has no depth.
No,
It,
but there's a place for. I mean, we're not gonna not have AI. AI, that genie's out of the bottle. That's in our world,
mhm,
and it could be a wonderful thing. You
it's
know,
a tool.
my partner the other day was working on his a resume, and he then put it into AI, and it polished it up beautifully. I was like, well, there's a great use of it. But so there's things for it. There's things, maybe some marketing images and animation and stuff. Great, that's a great use for it. But then there's the creative process of coming up with that painting or that picture, the imagery
Mhm.
yourself. For me, writing a book, I use this example in my video that months ago I was talking with somebody, and I was saying about writing my book, and it's taken many years to get this one book done because it was just an incredible growth process for me. They're like, why do you just get your topic and plug it into AI and bam, out comes a book? I was like, oh, I just for a minute I was like dumbfounded that somebody would say that.
I've heard that too. Yeah,
Because
and I
I'm
guess
like,
that goes on.
it does, but you know what? The whole process of writing for me, this intense creative process, you know how many epiphanies I had, revelations, how many things I grew and learned that I didn't learn or that I correlated together through this creative process. This expanded my beingness dramatically through this writing and this interface with infinite intelligence, asking its help, tapping into it. You know, I've grown immensely with it. Would I have grown immensely with AI? No, none of that would have happened.
No, you'd have a lot of facts at your disposal that you wouldn't otherwise have potentially, or at least you'd know where to go to get them. You wouldn't carry them around in your head because you got them in a little cell phone, or if you're walking around with it with your computer access, or at the home computer, like where you're sitting right now. All you got to do is it simplifies it. It
Well,
takes the
I do
time.
fact checks. I do fact checks. I'll see what AI
Sure,
says,
I
but then I'll
use
also scroll down and I'll use other things. So I
yeah,
fact check all the time in my book, but I'm not letting it write it for me because it's my soul expression. It's my heart expression.
exactly. It's your unique self.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I just feel like that is one of the warning things that I wanted to put out there with people. Is just, and it ties in beautifully to everything we're saying, is the warning of when to rely on the mental realm and the mental realm only, whether it's through AI or your own mental realm or your interaction with other. You know, it's a great thing getting little knowledge and access to that, but how do you translate that into the big K knowledge? You know, that is, to me, that is the most important thing. That's the whole juice and reason for life, for being here.
All right, here's one. There are a couple of ways of
Okay.
looking at it, and I'll try and be concise about this. The difference between big K and little K is what does the steak taste like? You,
There's the steak, but what does it taste like?
yeah, you can describe all its contents forever and ever, but you still don't. You actually have to experience it to taste to know what it is, and it's unique to you because the way it tastes to you is different from potentially from everybody else. We all seem to agree it's pretty good, but well, except for the vegetarians. But even they, ask them, what does a tomato taste like? I like them too. They're pretty good, and there's a difference in them. Some of them are more flavorful than others, as we well know from life experience. Again, um, it's what you're talking about is the joie de vivre, another French kind of thing, which I don't really use that French as a background or a useful, but twice I did already, and I noticed it. Um, it's the quality part.
Yeah, what you're saying is feeling, Maurice, is like the feeling of it. Like when I eat this, it's you say something real clinical about it, but it's very hard to describe taste clinically.
You
Yeah,
can't.
because
No.
it's an experience, it's a feeling. And I laugh about because there's studies done for with cilantro, for instance. People either love cilantro or they literally hate cilantro. So they did scientific studies on that, and they found the people that hate cilantro that it literally tastes like soap to them. But there's something, their taste buds are different, or their enzymes in their mouth. There's something
Mm.
biologically different about how they literally taste food. So cilantro to them tastes like soap. It tastes bad. And there's
Huh.
nothing they can do. It's not something to overcome. It's not something you're just being picky. It just tastes like poo poo. So it's just a thing. So you're right, we experience things very differently, and that's part of the joy of life, right? Is meeting people, new people, and experiencing, through them what it's like, and it's different, but not to judge people with it, because
Oh,
that's
no,
how they're
no. You
wired or
accept
built.
that we understand that there's differences, complete, and we vive la différence, another French kind of thing, but it's true. It makes that increases the quality of the life experience for all the participants. The differences.
Yep.
It
Like you don't
expands
want to
their
be in a room full of you don't want.
no. No, that's for sure.
That'd be not so much fun. And you wouldn't grow and expand. I mean, you're right. It's just the differences. And there
Mm.
we get into really the wisdom that comes from living and experiencing life in differences. One of the wisdoms I've drawn away from it is that we all are here to do different things and experience things in our own unique, different ways, and let people be with that. Just because they don't agree with you, well, great, they don't agree with you. So what? So if you think you're a Republican, someone's a Democrat, or someone's a Democrat and thinks you're a Republican, so what? So what? You know what I mean? It's just that don't impose and don't be pushy on that, pushing your beliefs on me, but let people be in their experience. If somebody's still really into the polarity with politics, the polarity with any other hot topic nowadays, that's where they are. I just don't want to have a conversation on it, and I'll direct a
Mhm.
conversation elsewhere, or I won't hang with them, because if they're obsessed and that's all they talk about, I don't really care and I don't want to talk about. That's not enjoyable for me. And conversely, I wouldn't be enjoyable to hang out with them because they wouldn't push my button and get me all agitated one way or the other. So it's kind of a mutually agreed thing. Like there's nothing beneficial for either of us in the exchange. But in the sidelines, I'm not sitting there and judging him. I may be using the mental realm of evaluation. You evaluate and say, oh, this is I see what's going on with this person. I understand, maybe a little bit where they're coming from with it. And then I bring like the wisdom of love and experience and acceptance. It's like, that's okay. They can go about their way, and I don't need to form a big old judgment about it. I can just live and let live. You
Yeah,
know,
well, that goes back to one of your earlier videos quite a while ago too, the one where you were talking about the inner circle and then the next circle out and then one after that and the one after that. That's there's another word that gets it gets under too narrowly defined, but you have to be discriminating about your judgment, what's what and where's where of what's going on around you. And that's it. Another word that I learned early on in life is just you have to discriminate one from the other.
Yeah, and discriminate not with the judgment, and then you get to decide. You are your own. I like to use this analogy. You are your own solar system,
You
and I
are
use it
that.
often. So sorry if you've heard it several times in my videos, but it's a really good point. You are the center of your own solar system. You're your own shining sun. We're going to use that imagery, whether you believe in that or not, doesn't matter. Just use this imagery and flow with it. And so you have different planets, i.e., people revolving around your life, and some maybe you're going to revolve around and you're going to hold them very close. Nobody gets into the center sun. That's your sacred place, your
Correct.
sacred.
Correct.
But then
Mm.
you have people that you want in close, and you have some people out here, people out a little farther, and then there's some people you put in the outer orbit. Some people you put in a totally different universe or solar system because you don't want anything to do with. Fine, just do that. But I tell you, in my life, if somebody's in like an outer orbit or a middle orbit, or they don't, I don't, they're not aware of that. I don't talk to them about that. That's just where I have them, like I know that's where it resonates. That's where it's healthy and it's appropriate for me. In the experience, I don't treat them any less or judge them any differently, but they're not privy to the inner circles of my life in that experience. And that's what I have control
Well,
on.
that's just being wise and intelligent, and defining what's actually going on. And again, it occurs to me most people who listen to what you and I have to talk about together, they understand fully what we're talking about. They do it in their own lives. We're just sitting here saying those words, but they have to say, yeah, that's basic 101 stuff.
Yeah, we still forget these things. So these are always
Yeah,
good reminders.
it
And
is.
so if
It is.
somebody lets you down or there's like a falling out of the relationship, is like, don't, so they were here, now they're out there. That's okay. Maybe they
Yeah,
come back in at a later time, maybe not. But you have
that's right.
absolute control over that. No need to get your panties all in a bind. Just have them out at another place and still be loving and kind.
Yeah,
You don't mean, but just know that I don't trust you. You're not a safe person for me to have close in. And
oh,
conversely, there's some people that you just send out of orbit. You're not going to be in my orbit at all because you're just not. I've learned that lesson. I got it. I don't need to be around somebody like you anymore. Bye bye. You're gone.
I and part of the struggle is the conflict between the individual and the society that surrounds us, and the expectations of that society. The overlay is the way I like to look at it, but that might be too strong for some people. It's the expected things that in order to get along in society, you're supposed to have this, that, and the other thing. You're supposed to do this, that, and the other thing along the way. The closest, one of the big things is family. We talk about it at holidays a lot, popularly across the board everywhere. The family get together used to be family dinners. They don't much do that anymore, I don't think. But back in the day, and the older you are, the more important they were, especially in the early days. It was expected behavior. You did that. You went at certain dates or holidays. You had family get-togethers, and you were expected to be there by who? The society around you. And if you didn't show up, you were an oddball, and you were looked down upon. So if you wanted to be part of the society, you needed to do that kind of thing. Well, what happens at family dinners, especially if there's booze floating around and all the other suppressed slights and enragements about each other, or angers or unsettled debts or whatever the hell is going on. They're never, well, they can be pleasant, but generally speaking, something always happens that that's not so good.
Well,
But
those are forced orbits. That's kind of because mom says so. We're having
yeah,
things,
yeah,
we have things, it comes down to mom, right? We have
yeah,
Thanksgiving with the relatives. But back in the
that's
day, Maurice, the relatives, we all lived close together. You know what I
yeah, they
mean?
did.
Families now are so split apart
Yeah,
that
it's
it's
true.
different. But it used to be where family gatherings, people were still close by each
Yeah.
other. So we'd all show up for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, maybe Easter, there these were the kind of set holiday things.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah,
didn't even start. Yeah, that is true. I watched. That's another thing. You guys know I'm a little older than most of you, probably all of you. But the point is,
I'm getting there. I'm
I
getting
know,
there.
but I'm still 20 years older than you are. So there you go. Um, 1954 is when Dwight Eisenhower just began the interstate system in the United States. Before that, people did not, and they didn't have automobiles, 2 and 3 cars in the driveway. They had, if they were lucky, they had one car, and that was it. And they were using county roads, state roads, and U.S. highways that had been built in the 30s, primarily. The 20s and 30s they started the state road systems, the interstate, the U.S. highway system. People did not go anywhere. They were where they were born is where they ended up pretty much, living their lives. But with the beginnings of the expansion of not only the transportation in this country, we also had at the same time the great expansion of information access to people. Don't forget, television didn't even show up in the popular culture until the late 40s and early 50s. And it was, you look back on some of the old YouTube or the accesses you can get of the old programs of the early 50s, if you know their names, Kukla, Fran, and Ollie is be one of them, for instance, to show you the quality of what was being put out compared to what we have today. It's just unbelievable. And the funny thing is, before 1948, you didn't even have that. All you had was the radio or magazines, weekly magazines, and the newspapers. That was it. And so therefore, information was pretty local, mostly. World events, the only people that followed world events were the ones that were working in that field, or you caught the surface of it on the nightly news, which might have been 15 or 20 or a half an hour on the radio. And other than that, you didn't know anything about the world unless you
Except what
became
you were told. And just
unless
think
you
how
became a scholar, and you know how
vastly
that works.
different. Oh my God, Maurice, it's just because I was born in 61, so that wasn't that far in the
Mm-mm.
past from when I was born. So I was
Yeah, but I
really,
remember the 60. I was out of high school by then, and I remember what it was like. Compared to 48, it was modern. But the televisions, for instance, the big televisions at the stores were like 20 inches or 21 inches. That
oh,
was
we
the
had
big one.
rabbit ears. We had rabbit
Yeah,
ears
oh,
that you
yeah,
had to
that's for
adjust
sure.
your
We didn't have.
antenna.
There was no such thing back then, at least not available to the public, for sure.
And
And
there's like 3 channels. I think there's 3 channels or two
yeah,
or
but
three
yeah,
channels. That was it.
plus PBS, I think, was the other one. Well, where I lived anyway, we had ABC, NBC, and CBS. That was it.
Yeah,
Plus,
right.
we had the public. I guess it was PBS back then.
I don't know when that started, but this. So for me, what I hear with this, Maurice, is just the incredible. I was always with everything. There's a positive and a negative. The incredible opening up of information available, and then you have like the dawning of the internet age, and now we're the dawning of the AI age,
Hmm.
this vast opening up of information. But what's come with that is another, the more insidious side of it is the manipulation agendas of what these huge, what do you want to call them? Like these huge networks or control systems like entertainment, Hollywood and the news, the media broadcasting, the whole, basically those two, really, the media and entertainment, and how they can hone and corrupt the message or distort it according to what their agenda is behind that, and what
Yeah, that's
huge
true.
impact it has. So now we're like playing out things at a big level, this big gross level of human emotion and feeling based in what they're, the knowledge, the small k knowledge that they're being fed. And I think that's something we have to be really aware of, that this is modern this is happening just recent years, is this huge change, this fight for the hearts and the minds, or I should say the minds and hearts of humans, because you start with the mind. And
Yeah,
if I can narrow you down this path and tell you this is what's really going on, then you get your heart worked up into it, and then you're stuck in that, as opposed
that's
to a
correct.
broader experience. And that's
Yeah.
the big challenge. And AI is just on steroids now. We're just one breath away of not knowing if that's really a video of that person or not, because they can change it. They get one video clip of somebody and they can make a video of that person talking and saying and doing things they
Oh
never
man.
did.
Yeah.
That's really scary. So for me, that's the absolute blurring of the line of reality and virtual reality.
They do that on of course I don't even watch my television. I still got one, but I haven't had it on for 3 years already, going on four. Anyway, but I do see stuff on the internet. Yeah, I do. I still use the internet obviously for communications and information. Um, I've seen, and probably everybody else has seen, they'll have on the national news, broadcast everywhere, they'll have a foreign leader, like Netanyahu, for instance. He makes a statement and he's talking in English, but it's AI. They openly admit it. It's an AI created voice in that made to sound like him in real life in English. So the English listening public can hear what he's saying with his mouth moving and everything.
Yeah, did he
Instead
really say that? You
but
know?
they do that with all of them anymore. You get some person in a what we call a foreign country. To us, it's foreign. Okay, say France. He's speaking in French to the people that are listening to him wherever the heck he's at when he's doing his speaking, but it sounds just like him, except the words coming out in his voice are in English. And that's some kind of way they got the AI to a point where they can do that. In other words, they could do that with this and make us sound Czechoslovakian or God knows what, Chinese.
But is it a really the real translation of it? That's where I get my skeptical hat on it is like, okay, what news agency has done that? Who's at the control of
I
the
don't
helm
know.
with that?
That's
And is
beyond
that
me.
actually a real translation of what they were saying? Well, you can see how you just switch a few words. Well,
Yeah.
look at throughout history, look at our sacred text, the Bible and stuff, that it's just how much of that was changed, and people don't realize that all these different councils over time, they took it and they cut certain books out, they changed certain words.
Oh yeah, we know that.
We can't talk about reincarnation because that would be too empowering if people knew that they get another chance. Nope, they
Yeah.
got to burn in hell on this round.
Yeah.
So they totally manipulated that. Now manipulation is on
Steroids.
steroids.
Yep,
It is
absolutely.
just, so I have no idea how we're going to circumnavigate that one.
Well, part
Um,
of it is not to pay attention to it, but how do you go about your life with actually doing that? Then you say, well, you could spend the rest of your life in your garden, in your kitchen, and in your house if you wanted to. Women used to do that in
I
my
would
lifetime.
personally go crazy because I need more interaction. I need more creativity. I need to,
Yeah,
I am,
yeah, your nature, I know you well enough to know you would not
that
do
wouldn't
well
work
in
for
that
me.
circumstance. But believe me, in the 40s and 50s, women, anybody like you, outside of a major large city, you would have not done well, lady.
No,
Society
I
around
wouldn't.
you they would have squelched you massively. They would have, and you know it too.
Mm,
Even
I
you do, that's
I
true.
do know. Thank God I came in exactly the right place and the right time.
Yeah. Well, I've met a lot of women like you that I'm sure they were there then, but they were squelched. So what did they do? Well, they did what they were expected to do, which occupied their time, and that kept the larger society around them off their backs. But what the women did, a lot of them were drinkers or
Yeah.
taking medications. Yeah, I don't even know what they used back
Well, think
then, but
about
they had them.
how many people are on medication nowadays.
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
what the ratio is between back then and now, but it's and I don't have these statistics. I didn't know we were going to go in this direction,
I didn't
but
either.
how many people are on mood altering substances, prescribed substances? And to me, when I hear people like I've got to go on I don't even know what the different names of these things are. Xanax, right? That's
I've
a big
heard of it.
one.
Yeah,
Your mama's little helpers, the little I'm gonna be on
yeah.
Xanax, I'm gonna be on some
Oh, my
kind of
mother had
pill.
one in the 50s or in the 40s. I remember it. And it was called Librium, whatever that was. You might have, the women that, especially the women, they know that more about that stuff than the men generally do. There's men experts and all of that, but mostly it's the women that are are attached to those kinds of things that I at
But
least.
there's a lot of men on this stuff too. I don't know the statistics, probably more women than men. I don't know, but it's really indicative of this inability based in our indoctrination. I feel like inabilities based in our indoctrination
Yeah,
to know how to cope being a human.
hope is
You
the
know,
right word too. Yeah,
because you're a human, you've got to learn. Like, I'm using these things because I feel really unsettled and I'm feeling really manic and I'm feeling emotionally unstable, or I'm not happy. Okay, well, that's like a symptom. It's like in your body, like you have a symptom, something's aching or hurting, and it may be indicative of a problem somewhere else, like in Chinese medicine, looking at the body as a whole system. But you want to get at the root cause of things. You don't want to treat the symptom. That is classic natural medicine,
yeah.
as it should be practiced. So somebody like, I'm going to take this pill because I'm feeling uneasy and I'm not happy. Well, you're suppressing a symptom where your body's trying to tell you something's not working. You're suppressing that. So then what happens? It's just going in deeper and deeper. And then pretty soon you've got some real problems if you ever stop taking
Well,
things,
that's
you
a
know.
society we grew up in, and that started massively before I was born. What is it, the Rockefellers, I guess it was, with the way they've controlled the medical system and this and the whole um, system within the country is counter to what you're suggesting. It's take a pill, take treat the symptom. That is what they primarily do. They never
That
offer a cure. They offer a an alleviation of the pain or the problem. But
That
through,
was the big reset that like Jason would talk about, a big
yep,
reset that happened in the early 1900s, like 1901 or 1902. But no matter what you feel like where that came from, what happened, there was a huge switch over of
yes,
paradigms. And the
exactly.
paradigm of health in the 1800s, for you that don't know, was energy medicine. People knew about the ethers, they knew about the invisible realm, and they knew that's the most potent changes happen there. And there's all kinds of energy devices and things to help switch energy around, which then controls the physical flesh. It's just powerful things in homeopathy, the power of that. And
Yeah,
when the big changeover happened at the turn of the century with pharmaceuticals, that was a big switch around. They made it illegal. All medical schools used to teach homeopathy and all kinds of other, really balanced systems. That was thrown out, man. What they did is the Rockefellers, they started funding the medical schools. They gave them huge amounts of money. And to get this money, then you're going to teach our curriculum. And their
yep.
curriculum also so happened to be attached to the drugs that we're going to provide to
Mhm.
resolve these certain things. And we know now, we've seen this over, 100 years plus, what pharmaceutical drugs really do. I mean, we have empirical evidence, at least enough of it's out there that hasn't been squelched, that it creates another range of problems, which it happens to be more pills to address and so forth. But that's
Not
the
natural though. Not
It's not
natural.
natural, no, and you don't actually naturally get a cure. Now, granted, if I go fall and break my arm, which I did last year, I was really happy to go to a emergency room,
Yep.
and get an X-ray and to be treated. I've had surgery before because I've had to. So I'm grateful for that. But the whole paradigm of wellness at a physical level is skewed, just like wellness at the mental and emotional, the higher levels, is all skewed. I mean, we didn't even have to get into psychology and psychiatry and all those areas, which are, a lot of them are relying on meds. um
I ran into somebody was speaking a little short clip I saw, and they made reference to something I hadn't thought of in years. I studied a little bit of not a little more than a little bit of philosophy in college as well, and I do recall running into it then. I just wrote it down so I have it correctly. There's a philosophy, it's called materialism. It is a legitimate philosophical approach to the world and life. What our system is a manifestation of the philosophy, to me anyway, of materialistic reductionism. That would be the whole scientism stuff we went through, especially over the last 5 years now, since 2020. That was a massive imposition of that placed across the world. But but materialism is the end, is the top of the pile. That is what it is. There's nothing beyond materialism. Everybody is a machine one way or another, and they reduce it down to its basic, to the point of your there is no higher realms available to you. That's where they're coming from. They do not acknowledge the existence or the reality of what you and I and most of the people who pay attention to this kind of conversation are well aware of it. How are they aware of it? They're aware of it by their own life experience. They feel it. They know it's there. They don't know how to define it necessarily, so they're listening to people like us talk, or greater experts about this, that, or other aspect of it. Joel would be one of them with his oh hell, it just went out of my head. The
Toltec, his
that's
Toltec
it, the
wisdom.
Toltecs,
Yeah.
yeah. They have an approach that's far different than that, as you well know. And there's all kinds of, spiritual, esoteric kinds of knowledge that are floating around, but that is not popularly portrayed or displayed within the general society. It's all what I would call materialism.
And materialism is mechanistic. You have
it
to,
is
that's
very
what
much
he's
so.
saying.
They're
the
advising.
body, and if we still back to the wellness thing, so what that's saying is the body is just a separate part. So you can go to a heart specialist because if it's happening here, it's here. Well, that is just so not true, because sometimes you can have a root canal on a heart meridian and there's an infection there and it's giving you palpitations or arrhythmia, and that's the problem. And you go in there and get a pacemaker and all that while this infection rages, and then it's going to start poisoning other parts of your body, so you never get at it. But that's exactly what you're saying, Maurice, is just the challenge is when you separate the body and you separate out mechanistic. Well, I can just be with the mind,
That's
just
your
be
AI.
totally emotionally based. How fun is that? You've been around people that are just emotional. It's just
emotions is a nuisance to the materialist.
right, and it's a
And a
nuisance to the
defect,
person
if
that's
you will.
purely emotional, because you've got to have the balance of thinking about things and rationalizing and understanding how things are working. You can't have one without the other.
Well,
You
they would
know,
prefer, and that's what the overlay, again, of my word, the overlay of this system is to have the one without the other. And AI is a manifestation of by them of that.
Yeah, it's polarity in it's we live in polarity and duality in this world, but they're making like the polarity and duality within us and separating us out from our emotional aspect and our mind aspect, and splitting that where you can't. You've got to have a balance with the feminine, the masculine inside. Now, the
That's
balance for
exactly
people
true.
are going to look different, there's all beautiful shades of that, but there is a balance with it.
Well, there's a center point, is another way of saying it as well. And that's that balance you're referring to.
Yeah.
You can be too heavy in the emotional aspect. You've seen people that, and
I was raised by one.
okay, we all know,
I know.
have seen examples of it. Some of us find ourselves in that position where
Yeah.
where the emotions take over it, and it becomes crazy almost, unmanageable, or you can't hardly go out in public because you're so emotional. But
And
you can go the other way just as much. You can be so fucking rational. There's no emotion and there's no heart, because the emotions is heart based. One
I
way.
was raised by one of them too. I had parents that were like that.
Well,
You know,
well, there they were. That's why you got born into that into that family, so you could see the extremes and say, no, I don't want that.
I did say, you guys, you got to get along. I go, you two
No,
need
I
to.
have to not be that. You showed me exactly what I don't want to be, so therefore I'll be
Oh my
something
God.
else.
I
A
know.
version of that in my own life too.
Oh man, I think we all I think there's been some evolving maybe with that a little bit. But we have other different paradigms we've grown into that's not about the extremes of masculine and feminine and has to be this way and has to be that way, but there's still problems. But I want to say one thing before we move on or continue with that, Maurice, when I
Sure.
talked about people, being on mood assisting drugs. Is I'm not saying, and Maurice is not saying that you go off this, there's something wrong with you for taking it, but just know that it is helping you with symptoms that you need to get at the root cause on. So, it's to find a way, if you can, of really addressing the why are you feeling unrested as far as in your emotional realm. Why do you have anxiety? Why do you have all this sadness or this
Yeah,
big swings on things? There's something going on that's, you know, above and beyond that. And sometimes people do need maybe some chemical pill version of something to balance it off for a little bit so you can get at what the real problems are. I can honestly say that that's probably some people may need that. They may need it for a time, but I think the goal is to look past it and find like a natural balance in what your body is trying to say to you, what you're thinking, what your emotions, what is it trying to tell you? Because it's trying to tell you something.
well, it's yes, exactly. You're right about that. The 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 medical exam response is you're just a victim, and that's effectively what they preach. We this happens to you. There's nothing you can do about it. You're too emotional. We have this panacea for you. This uh, thing you're
Quick
talking.
results, quick results.
Yeah, we'll treat the symptom, but we'll never go after the cause.
Yeah.
They just don't do that because if they well, you know that if they cure you, which they never do, but if they cured you, then you'd no longer be a patient of theirs, would you?
I
So it
know.
goes against their structure. They need patients forever.
I don't know what country it is. It's maybe it's I don't know, but there is. I remember seeing something on TV a long time back. It just flashed into my mind where they're incentivizing doctors get their bonuses for having their patients be well. And the more well they become, the more money that they make. You think
Huh?
about that. That makes
Well,
sense. Our country, it's the opposite. You
yes,
get perks from the drug company. Doctors get perks for recommending, like every time they put a patient on chemotherapy, they get a cut of that every time that they're doing from the drug companies or using their drugs, so getting people sicker using more and more drugs, they're getting a benefit from that. I
yeah,
mean, it's the wrong incentive, and I'm not saying that the healthcare providers are doing this consciously or are some evil intent on that. No, I think they're real healers at heart, and they're choosing this way of healing within the accepted, paradigm here. But just know that within the whole system, why don't we incentivize them for getting people balanced, healthy, off meds? That's when you start like, oh, you got all your patients off meds. Here's a bonus. Here, you need to make
uh,
more money. You're
that's
doing a good job.
that's because the
It's
system is not structured that way. It's not the goal. What you're describing is the goal is a prosperous goal, a growing goal. Um, uh, they don't want that. That is not the way that granted, I'm a little cynical about things in life, and that's one of them. The system is not structured for the well-being of humanity at all. It's
I'm very cynical. It's okay, Maurice. You're talking to another cynic here, which is a tough one, right? As we pull back the curtain, pull back, the whole curtain of deception that's going on. And this is like writing the forward to my book and everything. I just went into that because that's what my books are about, is like pulling that back, but in a fictional way so people can kind of digest, some of the harder to swallow truth within a story. But that's what it really comes down to. And the problem with the whole AI and all the media and entertainment now is that, the cover seems to be getting like thicker and thicker and more controlling, yet people are shining through, illumination is coming through on it. People
that is
are coming into the big K knowledge and they're going, I'm starting to see what's going on here. I mean, it's a beautiful time, I think, in the evolution of humanity right now, is because we are coming into a different cycle, a different time period, and there's different awarenesses that nothing can stop that. So I
I
think one
agree
of,
with that. I agree with
yeah,
that 100%. Yeah, now that gets into the woo woo a little bit. At least what we call what
I like the woo, I like the woo woo.
well, that's that's a field in and of itself with lots of pitfalls, as we both know, and most of the
Yeah.
listeners are aware by now as well. What's the truth from the bullshit? Um, but that the fact that it's even there is a big, to the degree that it is a sign in and of itself to all of us that something has changed within the awareness, the consciousness of humanity across the world from what we've experienced in our lives so far, plus what we know of what we've been told older people and older generations experienced. And then I know about his historical revisionism. I know that quite well. What's the truth from the fiction and all of that? Well, the more you go into that, then they got you down in that little box, and you're safe because the rest of you is still a victim in all these other areas that they've got covered. Medicine and whatever the hell else, how to be and what's proper manners and what's popular and all that kind of thing. They got the spectrum covered pretty much, but there's still something going on that they don't have their finger on. And that's what,
Something's going on.
yeah,
Yep.
and we can feel that. And we didn't learn it out of a book. We feel it. We know it internally. Say, wait a minute, it doesn't add up despite all of the pressures they put on us to say this is all there is. We still it don't fit. And we're
It
looking for, well, what is it that we're feeling? And many of us have been on this path for a while saying, what is that? And honestly, it's not a useless question because there are responses now individually within each and every one of us that we can say, I know why I'm doing this more than I ever did before. Do I know it all? We recognize no, we're not capable of knowing it all, quote, but we know way the hell more than we did 20 years ago or
Well,
10
and I
years
think the
ago.
lid of that box has the Pandora's box. You got to open up Pandora's box to begin
Yeah,
with. My feeling on this, you've got to blow the lid off it. You got to understand, like, go into the conspiracy. We want to use that word, the conspiracy network, and just see how effed up it all is.
it
But
is.
don't stop there. But don't stop there. Keep
That's the
going.
thing.
'Cause
Yep,
that can be a trap in and of
it
itself
is.
of just because you can get really worked up. And when you
Yeah.
start seeing how deep the manipulation goes, just how incredibly deep it is. Whether you look online, you look on YouTube and you see all this stuff, and maybe, a portion of it's like in La La Land, but a portion of it's solid information. No matter what, it's out there that there's the lies upon lies with our history, with even our geography, the uniformitarian model of our planet, evolution. I mean, just on our wellness and our food. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on, just how corrupt and distorted everything is. Yeah, it's really important. Like, we have to see that. And then we have to keep going. We have to
Correct.
keep going and keep vibrating out of that. I'm getting woo woo on you, but it's
Yeah,
still, you
here
got to
we go.
keep raising your vibration out of that being a victim, being all this bad thing happening and how horrible it is, and because that's like a scary place to be. But there's a
Mhm.
place you can be an empowered human being and see all of that going on, yet not be victimized by it, but be empowered by it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does. It literally does. But that's again, I call it the journey from not knowing to quote knowing. To the degree that you manage it, your life becomes more smooth. It runs more efficiently. And you
Yeah.
walk away from a lot of things that you used to think were really important.
I used to, when I was younger, and I can say it now at my
Yeah, you
age,
used to be younger too.
I did
Yeah,
exactly. And I
you're a
know
euster. That's another term the old guys would use. I'm a euster. I used to do that. I used
I
to do
used to
the
do
other thing.
that. And I'm the youngest I'll ever be right now, because from this moment forward, I've just got older. Um, but oh my God, now where is it going to go there? I have really
Sorry.
pinpoint. No, that's okay, because that's really funny. I know what it is. So I used to want to figure it all out. Like when I started blowing the lid and seeing all this stuff going on, I'm like, oh my God, I want to figure out really what's going on. Like, why do we have all these old buildings? And why is there our melted reality? And what about Tartarian? And what about this? And what about that? And I want to figure it all out. But you know what? I'm so exhausted. I just don't have the energy anymore. I don't want to figure out because you know what? We're not going to figure it all out. We're
No, we're
not
not.
going to figure it all out. I am not going to have perfect health in this life. I'm not going to like figure out all the keys of why am I feel exhausted a lot? Why am I this? Why sometimes I'm that? Why did I? You know what? It's like for me anymore, it's just balancing being in the now. To come back
Correct.
where you were is just right now. What can I do right now? You know, how can I be right now? And that to me is what I can control. That's and it's fine. It's like more than enough. It's a powerful place to be at. So what after really happened? I don't know what really happened with all those things. It's fun speculating. It's fun entertaining different ideas and stuff, but it's not the to be all end all. Like
Correct.
and it's not going to get resolved. I don't feel like we're going to really know what happened to this planet until we like leave this planet and then we are privy to what really is going on and it happened. You know, what really is this connection? What is this really about? We can say, oh, it's a school down here. It's a this or that. It's even more than what we even imagine what this is. You know, we can point like you said this many times in our interviews, Maurice, is don't confuse the moon for the finger pointing at the moon. Or the
Yeah,
finger pointing at the moon for the moon. Right?
correct.
Whichever way. You know, that
Yeah,
old,
that's an
I don't
old
know if it's a
saying from
Buddhist or
one of the
Taoist
wisdom
saying,
traditions, for sure.
yeah, yeah, is that we were never going to know, but we can point, you know, and kind of direct. And some people resonate like us, you and I chatting and pointing at certain things, but it ain't the thing. You
Yeah.
know, we're
Well,
doing our,
that's true. And then that's where the diversity is which was mentioned earlier. It's near the beginning of what we were talking about. It's diversity is beautiful. Now, how to manage it and how to actually uh, uh, maximize it is what we're talking about. And how do you do that? Well, you get back to the thing, the closer you are to living in the now and responding to what's actually in front of you that you can actually do something about at the highest. And then you hinted at it, you didn't go there yet, but it's that it really is part of it. It's at what energy level do you approach it or respond to it all makes a big difference. And of course, that's a whole
huge.
spectrum of conversation that I really feel is important too. We have the ability to be what you call low energy or high energy or somewhere in the middle. And the things are more beautiful. These are all subjective terminologies here, but they're more beautiful. They flow together better. They're more uplifting. The higher the energy you maintain and display and experience. Now,
Yeah,
how do
it's just
you do
all of
that?
our, there's an
Well, without a
emotional,
course.
there's an emotional spectrum and people have gone through and analyzed it. It's pretty, one is pretty similar to the other. There may be a few little differences of a different vibratory level, the lowest being fear and
Sure.
anger and, you know, all these competitiveness. And then it goes all on up the spectrum to the higher vibration fields.
Hmm.
And, you know, so we all, throughout the day, you know, we may vacillate a little bit between these. But I think the older you get, the more centered and honed into who you are. Those vacillations don't get as big as they may have been when you're younger, which is a good news thing, especially for women. But you do have that choice, like Maurice is saying, you have a choice of, you know, where you want to vibrate at. Yet, on the other hand, one of these things I've been thinking about lately, Maurice, too, as far as me just letting go of trying to figure it out or know it all, or to be it all and to be reach this pinnacle of health or whatever it is that I goal I want, that I probably have a capstone of how high I can vibrate being Elisa. I'm going to try to fill that out the best I can. But
Hmm.
will I be like some of the new kids coming in? Oh my God, the new kids, the next generations coming in, they're coming into a different environment. I think that they're designed to have a capacity to vibrate in a whole other way that we aren't going to be able to accomplish. And I'm so at peace with that. It's in fact, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just do the best I can within whatever I'm designed to do and be. I just
Yeah,
want to fulfill that. I want to fill that out and fulfill that contract of incarnating being me, and next time it'll be something else. It'll be
yeah,
bigger and better. Whether it's here or somewhere else, I don't know. That's okay.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead because there's more areas that we can go down, but I think we really covered this in a beautiful way, Maurice. I just appreciate you, your wisdom, and you always just surprise me in wonderful, wonderful ways
Well, I
of,
appreciate hearing that. I'm
yeah.
looking back and I said, geez, there was no you know, point that either one of us were really aiming at. We're just kind of talking with one another. It's like two people just sitting down and saying, oh, "What do you know?"
And two people trying to stay on topic. So I think we did
Yeah,
really good this time. We kind of wove around our topic. Sometimes I feel like we've been,
yeah,
but
yeah.
this
We
one I
have
feel
done that.
like was kind of like coming all around one central thing. So good on us for sort of sticking with that.
Well, I know one thing. When I encounter people, I've always my and I don't keep it in the front of my mind, but I look back and I say, what do I do? I encourage people to continue and not be defeated. And how that comes out is depends on where they're at and what they're confronting. I can't give them the final answer to everything, but I can help them where they are at the moment. So that's
Yeah.
what we can do as we interact with other people. You know, we we first of all we got to understand where they're coming from. That's the listening part of it, and actually listen to them, and not look for what's wrong, but just listen to where they are, and then say, okay, how do I alleviate? Can I offer anything that would help them get past this barrier that they seemingly facing? And the answer it never is with me is, well, you can't do anything, you're just a victim and you got to accept that and shut up and pull.
Well, and
I never go that
no,
way. There's
it's never
always,
because that's a flat out lie.
it
You
is,
can't.
but that
Yeah.
is, there's plenty of mouthpieces that'll subtly be saying that message forever and ever.
Oh,
You
poor
cannot.
you. It just
Yeah,
want.
exactly. That's bullshit, but they do that and they get away with it.
But
That's not
Maurice,
where I come from. That's not where
no.
you come from. And I guarantee you that's not where the people that are listening to this are coming from. So I'm here to say, keep doing what you're doing in that regard. And it will bear fruit, not only within you as you do it, but by the people that you encounter as you do it. And that is a good thing. And that's a value judgment on my part, but I'm offering it to you. It's worth it. It's worth the doing. How the hell do I know that? Because I've experienced it. And I dare say most of you have experienced measures of that yourselves in your own lives. So you know what I'm talking about is true.
Well, we're just honing that in. And you know what, Maurice, this is everybody listening, that is just words from an elder, wisdom from an elder. So take it or leave it. It's up to you if it fits or
Agreed.
not. But those are words from an elder, and you become an elder from having lived a life, learning, taking your knowledge and your experience and leveraging that into wisdom and into this place of knowing. Just absolute big, the big K, the
Yeah, I
big
like that.
K, the big K knowing. So thank you, Maurice, for sharing. I think that's a perfect conclusion for our time today, for our much needed Thursday
Yeah, I've missed
with
it. I
Maurice.
because I enjoy talking with you. It's a pleasure.
Oh, well, just ditto. So let's just start. We're gonna have to make it make, for me in particular, just get this on my calendar so we can start doing these on a regular basis again, because I
I
love them
enjoy it.
too.
Yeah.
I love them too. Okay, everybody, with that, I am going to remind you, if you like, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Rebel Crone. If you want more of practical, I like to call it like practical spirituality. I think that's um, where my heart and my soul is just making things practical and easy to understand so we can apply them and do them. And it's
Yeah, that's
not
a good way of putting it. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
push any specific program or philosophy because
Nope,
there's
it's just
wisdom in all of them, you know?
practicality. I will
Yeah.
put a link in the at the bottom of this in the comments to the video that I did, the AI versus II. Love to have you listen to that. Love to have you comment. Both Maurice will look through all the comments and comment as well too, and reply as I
Mhm.
do. So it's always something that feeds our soul as well, because we live by the laws of reciprocity, right? We give
Yeah.
things and we receive things. It's a flow. And so we're
It is a
sharing with
flow.
you a flow between us, from us, and we love having that flow coming back to us. So please feel free to be honest and plus one with it. If it's like, nope, I think you guys hit the mark, or you forgot about this or that, hey, we're open. We're not saying we know it all. We love to be enlightened and edified on things. So chime in.
Yeah.
This is an open conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so that's it. Then I'm going to close off. Thank you, Maurice, and we'll be talking to you soon. And as always, remember, much love and peace from within, because that's where it starts and that's where it's going to end.